Achieve optimal scintillation at the Seattle International Film Festival, May 7th through 17th. With 203 films from over 70 countries, the festival will immerse you in a cinematic experience unlike anywhere else. Discover independent and international films, in person, in the heart of Seattle. There's something for everyone, so join the community and start experimenting. Additional information and tickets on sale now at sif.net/festival.
Hey, Seattle. Executive producer Ashley Smith here. At the end of today's episode, we have a sponsored interview with Seattle Restored. Andrea Porter, program director, is going to talk to me about how a city program is breathing new life into empty storefronts across Seattle and how local entrepreneurs and creatives can get involved.
This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. As one of the world's tech capitals, Seattle's at the forefront of AI, but we are still very much figuring out what role it should play in our lives. And this week's news shows how it's affecting us on a local and global scale. We'll get into that and some other of the week's big headlines so far in today's episode. But first, in a story that really shows the power of social media, Laurelhurst has been in the news this week. Here to discuss is Brett Hamill, writer-performer, and the cartoonist behind the weekly series Doom Loop. Welcome, Brett.
Free the helicopters.
And we have Lex Vaughn, founder and editor of The Needling, Seattle's only real fake news. Hi, Lex.
Hello.
Has there been a Needling headline about
This
Laurelhurst?
morning.
Yes.
Oh, there
yeah.
was one?
I you know what? It's so funny. I actually I wrote a headline about this on Saturday, but sometimes I'm just so mad about something.
As a political cartoonist, I'm like, no, Brett, you got to give this a couple weeks. Because at first you're just like, how can I inflict maximum damage?
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
not the best impulse for humor writing.
All right. Well, for folks who have not heard about this, as far as I can tell, this started when someone on Reddit posted about a thread on X from a person who said that they are a pilot. And this person said that essentially when a child is being taken to Seattle Children's Hospital, unless the child is extremely critical, we are forced to land over a mile away at an alternate pad and finish by ambulance. This creates delays in patient care, unnecessary transfers, which are some of the most dangerous things you can put a patient through, and added ambulance costs. So this person who posted on X initially has since deleted their account, but this has set off this whole discussion around this policy. And it seems like it's maybe an unofficial policy about how the Seattle Children's Hospital handles helicopter rides for their sick patients, and what feedback they've been getting from neighbors living in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. So as far as I can tell, none of this is new. There has been strife between some of the Laurelhurst neighbors and the hospital for decades now. And a lot of folks are pointing to specifically a 1992 agreement that the city made with Seattle Children's about how to handle these helicopter evacuations for patients. I found a 1992 op-ed in the Seattle Times floating around from a guy named John McFalls, who said he lived across the street from the hospital. And he said, "We have been increasingly harassed by the sound of low-flying helicopters,
Oh my God.
the senseless abuse of ambulance sirens, false alarms from parked cars with faulty security systems, and frequent accidents as automobiles attempt to access Sandpoint Way from Northeast 50th Street due to increased traffic congestion. Thousands of neighborhood parents and children would be safer and better served if the hospital closed down its helipad and relied on the helipad located nearby at the University of Washington Playfield or the pad at Harborview Hospital." I will note that the Harborview helipad is at least 4 or 5 miles from Seattle Children's, and it would be hell to try and drive through traffic for that.
Yeah, bad traffic areas. This is one of those things where if I drew it in a political cartoon, people would accuse me of using straw men. These people can't be such heartless, child-hating ghouls that they would risk the lives of children in emergency situations. Yes, they would.
I have to say, I think it also makes a huge difference that the person who started this was allegedly one of the helicopter pilots. It's like, this is a person who could say first person, like, I had a sick child in my helicopter and I couldn't fly them directly to a hospital because of these people. It just makes it a little bit more real, to people. Like, yeah, this is actively happening.
The fact that they deleted it also makes it feel more real, because you don't delete something if you're just a troll with a burner account. You delete
Yeah.
something when you might face actual implications for publicizing it.
I do wonder if that person got nervous and deleted it. I mean, one can create a whole narrative in your head about what the logic there was, but I do hope that that did not get them in too much trouble. So there are also some more details in an agreement that Seattle Children's made with the city in their 2008 expansion. I was looking at some of the documents for that, and it said that Children's will establish and publicize a noise hotline for neighbors to report noise complaints, with contact information for both non-emergency noise complaints and after-hour emergency noise violations, such as car alarms. And also that helicopter flights, and this is like kind of exactly what the pilot was speaking to, helicopter flights are only used when the time saved in transporting an ill child would make a critical difference in the child's care and recovery.
Why are you making people even think about that? They publicly have a hotline, the police, a children's hospital. It would be horrible to do this to any hospital, but it's a children's hospital.
I mean, is this happening around Harborview, or like are East Lake neighbors complaining about ambulances going to UW?
People know if they live in that neighborhood. It's like, okay, like if I live in this portion of Pill Hill or whatever, like, yeah, I'm gonna be around ambulances.
And look, I live on the south end of Seattle. We have so many overflights from Boeing Field and SeaTac that it would destroy these people in an afternoon if they had to hear it. And that's just like the ambient noise of our part of town.
And it's not even that many flights, like airlifted flights coming in. I mean, everything that I read was like, this would be 3 to 4 flights coming in a week.
So I looked at a 2008 environmental impact assessment of Seattle Children expanding their campus, which I believe they successfully did back then. And it included an outside third party doing an assessment of the helicopter noise. And I was looking at it, and it said that basically as loud as it gets is 100 decibels, which is loud, but that's kind of the same volume as my neighbor mowing their lawn, which arguably lasts way longer than a helicopter passing overhead. It said that generally the decibels range between 35 and 63. And I was trying to compare what that decibel level is for something else people might be more familiar with. A vacuum cleaner is about 75 decibels, so that's still louder than what you would be experiencing. And of course, if you're living right next to the hospital, sure, it might be a little louder, but for the average neighbor in the general region,
it's child medevac ASMR.
Oh
Come on,
my gosh.
it's not.
like, I'll also point out that there aren't that many landings, partly maybe because there is this official, unofficial policy. There were about 150 landings last year.
Total. Yeah, I mean,
Total.
gosh, that's nothing. And it's like, these people are also just so rich. Like, I mean, if they really like don't want to hear that, like, you definitely have the money to like move away.
Double pane glass. I mean, the bigger picture issue is it's fascinating to me when an entire community or neighborhood in Seattle does not mind taking their heel turn and unashamedly stands there and says, yes, this is what we're like.
Okay, not to be all, not all Laurelhurst people, but a little bit not all Laurelhurst. Like, I know that Facebook is not the ultimate reporting tool, but I'm in a few of the Northeast Seattle neighborhood groups, and I've seen people who are like, hey, I live in Laurelhurst. I'm pissed off about this. Like, how do we organize? How do we make it clear that it's not all people who live in this neighborhood who support this? Instead, it's kind of a vocal group of people who have been very active in trying to contact the city, in, writing in with their comment so that their voices are heard.
What's undeniable is this policy is bogus and it needs to be dismantled and canceled as fast as possible. And whoever is responsible for dismantling it needs to get on it right now, whoever they are.
So that is what I've been trying to figure out. I have not been able to locate the exact policy, but I did write to Seattle Children's and ask them if they would want to come on the pod and talk about it. They said they're not doing interviews, but they sent us to a public statement which said that they did concede that ongoing efforts by some to restrict helipad access puts an unnecessary burden on the system. We are eager to revisit the dated agreement Children's has been operating under and welcome the support of community members or city leaders who would like to join the conversation. And one group that, of course, has been identified in all of this is the Laurelhurst Community Council, who say that it's not them. They said that they are
have
not
the hotline, though, right?
I don't know
hotline?
that it was their hotline. However, there are several people who are active in the community council who I have also seen written comment from opposing the expansion and drawing kind of concerns about some of the extra noise, or even in some cases, like reflections of the sun off of buildings. But the Laurelhurst Community Council says that they are not a party to this conditional use permit and they were not contacted about any of the terms of this agreement. So it is kind of unclear what the next step here is. Part of the issue seems to be that it's a judgment call that the helicopter pilots or the medical staff have to make. But
and in consideration of someone in this neighborhood, because like there wouldn't need to be any deliberation about, oh, does this kid come directly to the hospital or to this athletic field a mile away, if they weren't scared of someone in that neighborhood being like all uppity about it. And they must have a fair amount of power, because it's like, everyone at this point is going hands off, like, I didn't do it. Well, someone did, and someone's keeping it up. So I think let's keep the pressure on until somebody gets real about why this is still an active policy and why this is why it's something they still have to like even consider at this hospital.
So our wonderful producer, Liam, just told me that there is going to be a demonstration at 11:30, Saturday the 9th, at the intersection of Sandpoint Way and Northeast 45th. So like right there by Children's.
They're joining forces with the Tesla people that set up there. I mean, I read that too. And I was like, oh my God, the rabble is rousing. You know, so they're like, you can come and join us at the anti-Tesla protest, which they always have there. And then we'll all walk up there. And it's a great civic moment because, you know, regardless of how it plays out, it shows, you know, it forces us to confront the fact that there are people with so much privilege that they can endanger children's lives, that they would even beyond that they would even consider calling in a noise complaint on a medevac helicopter. I would never do that.
That is just something that needs to happen. That is part of living in a city. And I don't know, every time I hear an ambulance go by or a helicopter overhead, I'm thinking whoever is in there, I hope they are doing okay. And I hope they make it, you know? All right. Well, let's take a break. I'm sure this is not the last we have heard about this.
It's so amazing.
But when we come back, we're going to talk about how our city and its institutions are using AI. Are you thinking about Napa or Sonoma for your next wine trip? If so, you might be overthinking it. Dundee, Oregon is right in the heart of the Willamette Valley, and it delivers all of the charm, wine, and food that you're looking for with just a short drive south. It's 30 miles outside of Portland. And you know I love a walkable town, and Dundee is super cute. Every third Thursday, they've got art on display with live music, food trucks, and wine tasting specials. Go for the great wine, stay and enjoy the laid-back vibes. Travel Dundee is offering spring discounts for CityCast listeners. Visit traveldundee.com/CityCast to unlock exclusive lodging promo codes for your next stay. Again, that's traveldundee.com/CityCast.
Hey, Seattle, if you've ever wanted to see our Pacific Northwest whales, this is your moment. FRS Clipper Whale Watching is the only whale and wildlife tour departing from right in downtown Seattle. And this year, for their 40th anniversary, they're launching a brand new catamaran, the Emerald Clipper. It was built right here in Washington State, and it's designed for comfort and incredible views with spacious outdoor decks, floor-to-ceiling windows, and onboard naturalists who help you actually understand what you're seeing aboard this floating classroom. Out on the Salish Sea, you might encounter humpbacks feeding, killer whales hunting, gray whales cruising, plus bald eagles and seals and sea lions. It's not just a tour, it's a full wildlife experience. And they have a whale sighting guarantee, so if you don't see whales, you'll get a complimentary tour to use in the future. Spots fill quickly as the season ramps up, so don't wait. In fact, Sam and I have already booked our trip, and we cannot wait. You can book early too. Just go to whalewatching.com. That's whalewatching.com.
Our local institutions are figuring out its relationship to AI, while local tech giants are leading the charge on scaling the global use of AI. And I think we're seeing this on so many different levels, like how it's affecting people on an individual level, how it's affecting us on a city level, and then what these big companies are doing on a global level. The Seattle Times Union says that management rejected a proposal from them. They wanted to guarantee that workers would not be replaced by AI. So we talked about this a little bit last week on the show with the News Guild that is currently striking. McClatchy has been trying to pilot an AI tool that is remixing some journalists' work. To be clear, the Seattle Times is not owned by McClatchy, but I think this McClatchy situation has gotten a lot of journalists to think about the use of AI in their workplaces. So the Seattle Times Union has asked management to consider this proposal, and they say that management told them that journalism doesn't mean journalists. What does that even mean?
I mean, there's a fair amount of reporting that's subsidized by Microsoft at the Seattle Times. And honestly, I mean, a bigger conversation, even in the influencer world, is like there's a lot of AI money getting thrown around. And you're seeing all these people going like, well, maybe, AI is not that not so bad. It's like, how much
That's
did you
the exact
get paid?
voice they use also.
I really think in all these conversations, we have to talk about what money is feeding this. And I'm very concerned about AI coming into the city,
Well,
and
speaking of AI coming into the city, the mayor's office published its vision on AI on Monday, saying that city employees will use Microsoft's AI product Copilot, but that they would be blocking other AI tools. So Wilson previously announced that she was pausing the city government's use of Microsoft Copilot, which had been used by 500 employees as a pilot, and there were plans to roll it out to the entire city government, I believe in February, but she paused that for just a second. And she said that the city had discovered that many employees were still using ChatGPT and that there were data privacy concerns around that. So in this rather long statement that was released on Monday, she writes, I understand that some people may wonder why the city would allow any AI use at all. I don't believe that simply burying our heads in the sand will prevent these tools from being used, nor will it allow us to continue to be world-class innovators in both technology and public policy. As a city, we have a responsibility to keep up with technological change to better serve our residents. People around the world are already finding a multiplicity of ways to make use of this technology, and that includes hundreds of city employees who took part in early testing of Copilot and overwhelmingly reported positive results. But the phrase that stood out to me was make use of this technology. It really, to me, sounds like we are finding a way to make use of this thing that maybe no one particularly
wants or needs.
yeah.
Yes.
This is another thing, like Katie Wilson got a shit deal coming into office. Basically, the surveillance cams had already been approved by a previous council, which is in the process of being voted out in the next election and such. So she had to mitigate a lot of stuff that she never would have chosen as her own initiative. Surveillance cameras would be one. AI, I'm sure, would be one. She's inherited all this shit that makes lefties really angry. And she's got to find this middle path, and I understand that. I understand what the implications of what she is up against. So she's got to find a measured way to be like, okay, fine, you can use Copilot. A third of our economy is predicated on making sure everyone sees this as this inevitable transformation that no one can stop. So she's just a mayor of a second or third tier city, trying
I'm sorry,
to...
she actually calls it the best city in the world, which...
I'm talking about the tiers that we live in based on our
sure.
population and industry and such. We're a second desperately trying not to be a third tier city.
Okay, I want to take issue with that also, because the other piece of AI news I'm bringing here is that two of our leading companies are, again, at the forefront of the AI military industrial complex. So the Department of Defense announced on Friday that the military is building an AI first fighting force, whatever that means. And it has deals with Microsoft and Amazon, as well as other tech giants, like kind of the ones that wouldn't surprise you. So like Google, NVIDIA, OpenAI, SpaceX. I kind of think that being home to two of these major companies maybe moves us into tier one. Like, I feel like San Francisco and Seattle have really kind of moved up in terms of national importance just because of being tech hubs, like it or not.
Sure, but Seattle has never seen a bubble that it will not wholeheartedly grab onto until it bursts. So we saw this with the .com era. We're seeing this now with, for example, Amazon, that bubble. Like, I knew people that were, customer service people in the early Amazon days making great money, and that burst. There's like, we are so guileless in a way that a New York or an LA would not be. And actually, in some ways it's good. The corruption here, the actual corruption is a lot less than there are in a lot of other larger cities. So, but we just give a big bear hug to those bubbles until they pop. AI probably is doomed if everyone in Seattle is grabbing onto it.
I do think that the combo of these three stories paints an interesting picture, that we are, on the one hand, home to two of these giant companies developing AI first fighting force for the Pentagon. But that also our individual local journalists, who many of whom are, trying to cover this, are maybe also going to be replaced by AI, or at least their employers can't guarantee that they aren't going to be.
And I mean, what I really don't like seeing from like politicians and then also the leaders of our, biggest newspaper, the Seattle Times, is like, well, we have to support our big hometown, tech company, Microsoft.
Boosterism.
Why? They're laying off tons of their employees and replacing them with AI. Like, are they really like a hometown, like big economic booster if their whole trajectory is how few of us they can even like pay to get to be part of this?
I mean, I'm seeing the same argument with, I saw Danny Westneat had a piece in the Seattle Times about essentially Katie Wilson alienating Starbucks and whether that is a smart political move. But I mean, I do think that people are talking about, like, have we been too cruel to Starbucks? Is that why they're going to Nashville?
She just said it's not that good of coffee, which Katie has done. Again, she's inherited quite a bunch of crap, and she's done her best to like play the role of local civic booster, when really, let's face it, all she wants to be doing is adding new bus lanes and building affordable housing. And all this other shitty parts of their job are the ones where she's taking flack from the right and the left simultaneously. But that's also the stuff you have to do as a mayor, and that's why most people don't want that job.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like just kind of the most recent use of AI in our city, but I suspect
Starbucks is using AI too. I also
that's right. They're doing like a vibes coded drink thing.
The sales pitch never ends. Yeah, it's like when sun-dried tomatoes were popular. You guys are probably too young to remember this, but like with sun-dried tomatoes, all of a sudden everything had sun-dried tomatoes in it, and you'd be like, I don't really see where how the sun-dried tomatoes are adding anything to
me?
this
Oh my
bagel.
God. You're so right. I don't see sun-dried tomatoes anywhere ever. There
Eventually
was a
they go
bubble.
away. Yeah, and
With-
AI is going to be
Hopefully
that way.
happens.
Brett, was that something that Seattle embraced wholeheartedly for a bit? Is that
I'm sure.
this is just fodder for Brett's theory? All right, so maybe AI are the sun-dried tomatoes of the tech world. Let's leave it there. When we come back, we're gonna get into our midweek medley where we run through this week's headlines so far. If you're in Washington and you haven't tried King Harvest hummus yet, you're missing out on a locally made favorite. Since 1977, King Harvest Hummus has been making their small batch, fresh hummus in Portland, Oregon. It's not like an average hummus. It's a thicker texture combined with bold flavors, and it creates raving fans after tasting it. Not surprising, since it's made local and fresh on the shelf. Some of our favorite flavors are roasted red pepper, jalapeno, sun-dried tomato, and of course, the classic. You can eat this healthy dip with chips, veggies, or add it to a sandwich or wrap. Or maybe you just want to eat it with a spoon. Most people buy more than one because once it's open, this healthy dip disappears fast. You've got to try it to love it. Don't miss out on expanding your snack experience with this locally made fresh dip. King Harvest Hummus. Simple, better, one dip at a time. You can find King Harvest in the refrigerated section at your local grocery store. First up in our midweek medley, the millionaire's tax has survived its first legal challenge. KUOW's Sarah Meisestan reports that the Washington Supreme Court has ruled that voters cannot bring a referendum to block the millionaire's tax. So in the legislation that passed, that already blocked a referendum. But almost immediately after the bill passed, hedge fund founder Brian Haywood filed a lawsuit alleging that the clause blocking the referendum was unconstitutional. But on Monday, the Washington Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of that clause. Haywood's group, Let's Go Washington, is also leading some anti-trans initiatives in schools, which will be on our ballots in the next few months here. I honestly did not know how this was going to go. So it's interesting to see that the Supreme Court was just like, you know what? No, you can't bring a referendum against this.
We have a Democratic trifecta in this state, and the millionaire's tax passed with even like the sort of moderate do-nothing Democrat wing of the majority. I mean, come on, how much more mandate do you need to have? And it was also just like moderated to death. It could have been had a lot sharper teeth. So, I mean, the Supreme Court saying, look, come on, where did we get this idea in judicialism where like the courts can just invalidate the work of people that we've democratically elected? Obviously, we're seeing that at the Supreme Court right now, but it's just, we've got it like it was passed by a Democratic majority, and even people like Jamie Peterson, supported it. So
I do think it's interesting that there's still some misinformation floating around about it. Someone on Reddit posted a photo of a full-page ad that ran in the Sunday Seattle Times that says that Seattle will have the highest income tax in the nation. And I don't think that's
Not
true.
even close.
I've done cartoons about this where people have like pushed back, and I've had to like actually lay out my sources and verify the way that I'm depicting this. And the fact of the matter is that rich people have it good here, but the more important thing to consider is that poor people shoulder a higher percentage of the tax burden than rich people. So whether or not rich people have a great deal or not, which they actually do have a great deal right now. There's a property tax cap. There's no state income tax, et cetera. There's a thousand reasons why rich people would want to stick around, and which is why none of them are moving out of the state, even though this passed and will go into effect in 2 years. You got to keep your eyes on the fact that the problem is that poor people are shouldering all that. People who need that money for healthcare, for childcare, for all these other things, like we have to shift the burden away from them.
What's amazing is like, I mean, there's wide public support for the millionaire tax. I mean, it's like, it's not like even a fight to make it popular, but there are rich people who are still strategizing, like, how can we change the narrative? Let's just keep, cracking at it. Maybe something will work.
Look, the last levy that Seattle passed by 80%. there is this very strong need and desire by the electorate to tax the hell out of not just the rich, but like people who are like more or less affluent or well off or own a home or whatever. Everyone agrees. And the good liberals of Seattle are on board with this too. Like, yes, I think I could pay a little more in taxes. I will accept it. We need to have parks. We need to have education. We need libraries, et cetera. If we just let infrastructure fall apart and, bridges collapsing and shit like that, eventually the remedy becomes much more strong medicine for the rich.
Speaking of infrastructure, or at least old infrastructure, demolition at Gasworks Park began this week. So for folks who aren't familiar, in the last decade and a half, there have been 3 deaths and 11 people who are seriously injured by climbing on the old equipment there. And families of those who have been injured or killed and other concerned members of the public have been pushing to have some of the more climbable equipment removed from this old infrastructure. The city's Landmarks Preservation Board had been trying to block any changes to the park, but last month, the city's Department of Construction and Inspections ordered the Department of Parks and Rec to remove, quote, hazard conditions, which basically were the climbable parts of that infrastructure. So ladders, piping, and catwalks. And that essentially just ended that stalemate. And the demolition of those pieces began on Monday. They're taking those down.
I am all in favor of this whole new we can just do shit vibe. I would like to see a lot more of that from Katie Wilson, from people within city government that just want to fix shit like this that has no viable reason to just do shit. People like that. And then something happens and then we don't have to talk about it anymore. Have a bias towards action. I
thought it was interesting that one department was just like, look, we're handling this. Like we're just making
it's so nice.
So much respect.
Like, wow, in Seattle? Really? Okay.
I know. What is this feeling?
Wow.
All right. That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. Brett Hamill, thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
I'm going to be thinking about that sun-dried tomatoes and AI metaphor for a while. So don't be surprised if you hear it on the show again. Lex Vaughn, thank you for being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, executive producer Ashley Smith here with Andrea Porter, program director at Seattle Restored. Andrea, welcome to CityCast Seattle.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Andrea, you've been with Seattle Restored since the very beginning in 2021. For listeners who haven't heard of this program, what is it and what problem was it originally trying to solve?
Seattle Restored is a program of the City of Seattle Office of Economic Development, and it is managed in partnership with the nonprofit where I work, Good Business Network of Washington. As we know, we see empty storefronts in our city, and what can we do to enliven those spaces? So we really want to bring energy, creativity, commerce to our neighborhoods, see those empty storefronts filled. And then we also really want to support entrepreneurs in testing out a brick and mortar space. Right now, we've landed on a spot where we offer participants a no-cost lease for 6 months. They are provided some tenant improvement funds to get started, to buy some things like furniture or a cash wrap, possibly even some additional inventory. We also cover insurance, and we have a robust marketing plan as well to help really encourage and ensure people are getting out and seeing these brick and mortar spaces.
Where is Seattle Restored focused in 2026? And what does the current cohort of participants look like?
In 2026, we have 30 pop-ups that we're running throughout the city. So our primary locations are downtown, Belltown, Pioneer Square, the CID, as well as Lake City. It's a really diverse range of pop-ups. We want to ensure that people are excited to go out and explore. So right now we have a Seattle 90s era grunge scene photography and event space. We have a Vietnamese bakery. We have vintage sports apparel. It's really just the range of creativity from entrepreneurs across Seattle.
What makes a strong candidate? What are you looking for?
We have about 4 pillars that we're really looking for when we're reviewing applications. One is their impact. What kind of economic activity will they have in the space? Will they be hosting classes or workshops? Can it be a third space for our community? Number 2 is readiness. Is the business ready for this opportunity? Do the businesses have the inventory? Do they have the staffing? Do they have the energy to be there? 3 would be experience. Where is the business in their journey? Do they have a lot of life experiences that could help them to run this pop-up shop? And then finally, equity. Is the business women, Black, Indigenous, or person of color owned? We do prioritize those individuals because they have been historically underrepresented and offered opportunities like Seattle Restored. So we want to ensure that we are prioritizing those businesses.
And what does success look like for Seattle Restored? Like, how do you know that you've done what you've set out to do?
We want thriving, engaging spaces. We want the community to come in and find new and exciting retail as well as third places. And then, of course, we're looking for the businesses to feel like they've had some success with the program. Over the course of the program, we've had 26 businesses graduate and go on to long-term leases of their own. But we've also found that that's not the only measure of success. If you don't go on and secure a long-term lease, maybe you went through the pop-up program and actually discovered, I really just want to do wholesale, or I just want to do farmers markets or shows. Success can look like so many different things through this program. And for us, it's about allowing them the opportunity to explore and really see what works for their business model.
Can you highlight a couple of them? I'd love for listeners to get a sense of the variety of businesses and creators that you're bringing into these spaces.
We have 4 pop-ups that just launched in late April. They're on 4th and 5th Ave downtown, right by the 5th Ave Theater. I also want to put in a little plug for using our passport. So if you go to the Seattle Restored website, you can download a digital passport where you can check in at all these locations and you can win prizes for checking in at the locations. One of the stores is called G2G. It's an outdoor clothing brand. So they really blend streetwear and outdoor performance. On the next block over, we have Paper Pushers Print Shop, which is a bookstore and community space. So they're showing hundreds of zines and artist books and prints. We have Noir Luxe Candle Company Collective, so a candle company and apothecary shop, and they have an event space as well. So they'll be hosting classes for community members as well as candle pouring classes. And then finally, one that we're really excited about is an experimental retail space called the Moonride Trading Company. And it's about intergalactic goods and otherworldly arts. So I think the 4 of them, all very different, but if you go out to them, you can kind of see a through line of creativity and bringing people into space to feel really welcomed in downtown Seattle.
Andrea, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
If you're a Seattle business owner or creative looking to get involved, check out seattlerestored.org and see what storefronts are available. We'll have the link in our show notes.
I'm your host, Jane Sihu. Listeners, we want to hear from you. Send us your news tips, your questions, your hot goss. If you live in Laurelhurst, please, I want to hear from you. I've been begging people to message me. And I actually did get a really nice message from one Seattle Children's employee, basically saying that this has been going on for a really long time. And that one time years ago, she heard about someone complaining that a helicopter ruined their barbecue. You can email us at seattle@citycast.fm, or you can text us or leave us a voicemail at 206-880-3931. Until next time, see ya, Seattle. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Also, leave us a little review. It's really helpful. And tell your friends about us. You can also get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. And you can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at CityCast Seattle, and you can watch full episodes of this show on YouTube.